Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to Facebook Live with Pick My Solar. As always, or most of the time, Rex Kehoe along with Patrick Crowley. Deep dive number 60 today.
Wow.
We're getting up there.
Yeah.
We have a new microphone. This is looking official now.
Yeah.
All right, so today we are going to be talking about the pros and cons of solar panels. I think just kind of solar in general. I would say there's not many cons, but let's see what the slides have to say. As always, ask us anything, write us a comment, shoot us an email, give us a call. We will answer any and all of your questions. Okay, the first pro, bill savings. That's obviously a pretty obvious one here. Tell us a little about how people can save money on their bills with solar.
Yeah. This is why most people do it
Yep.
in the end. Net metering, you're able to give energy to the grid, get it back from the grid, able to get a clean exchange for what you produce versus what you consume. And if you overproduce, you're going to get things called bill credits. And in some utilities, it's going to go month to month. A lot of utilities will do what we call a true up. So every year, they'll kind of settle your excess or not your excess, your underproduction to kind of match it up. That's why we try to design to 100% of the yearly usage. But you're going to get that bill at the end of the year to kind of settle up. If you have any extra usage, you'll get credited at an avoided cost rate. If you have to pay something, you'd pay it then.
For sure. And I'd say there's definitely some utilities that do not allow net metering. Those are going to be some states that, going solar is not going to save you money on your bill, basically.
It's going to be very hard.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard. Basically, if there's no net metering, at night, you're still going to have to pay for all of that energy because your system's not producing. Net metering allows for those bill savings, essentially.
Correct.
Okay. See what else we got here. Con. So, unfamiliar project. So, good point here. I mean, at the end of the day, going solar is a construction project. Some homeowners may or may not have experienced a construction project in the past. So there are some uncertainties there, a little bit intimidating maybe for some.
Yeah, and going solar is likely, in many cases, the first time somebody is doing that.
Yep.
And when you do anything for the first time, you're going to have a little bit of trepidation about the process.
Sure.
And when the process involves getting somebody to come out to your home, figuring out what equipment might be best for you in a space you don't necessarily understand.
Yep.
Think of if you've never, bought a TV before. How do you decide what kind of TV you want? It's not really any different from any type of purchase. Maybe a car is a better comparison due to the price and,
Yes.
and the amount that we want to be using it.
Yeah, a lot of technology out there, so a
Yeah.
lot of information to comb through, especially if you're not familiar.
Yeah, you're usually not financing a TV, so we're going to stick with the car analogy.
Yes.
It might be a little tricky. Do you lease? Do you loan? Do you do a down payment? The interest? It can be a little tricky. And then on top of that, you have your tax credits, incentives.
Yep.
How does that all apply?
Yep.
It can be daunting. Kind of
Yep.
why we exist, but it can
That's
be
true.
daunting.
Yep, absolutely. So just a lot of things that you might not be familiar with, but as Patrick mentioned, come to pickmysolar.com and we'll sort it out for you. So that's, I would say, kind of a con, but with proper guidance and research, you can overcome that. Pro, environmental sustainability. For sure, solar is cleaner energy than fossil fuels.
Yeah. I don't need to elaborate much on that one. That one's pretty simple.
I would say so.
Yeah, but I think that environmental sustainability, it's a small portion, but you're kind of doing your own bit against your own carbon footprint.
Yep.
You're able to kind of produce your own power, and a lot of people, kind of trying to minimize their own impact, can isolate that portion of their life. It's not so dissimilar to recycling. If you do a very small piece of a larger puzzle, and enough people do that, it can have a larger impact. And so obviously it's better than getting your energy straight from the grid. But.
Right. And the whole local power, and one thing to touch on that is, a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but more and more homeowners are getting battery storage as well with their solar system, which essentially is allowing for you to have a microgrid, in your own home. So you're not off of the grid. We wouldn't really advise that, but you are, more protected. And have a little bit more independence there.
Yeah, and we saw it, this year with some of the forest fires, blackouts that came out of that. People were without power for quite a bit, and so we're not quite at the time where we can have micro grids and autonomous neighborhoods.
Right.
But that you could do that at the household level.
Yeah.
With a battery. Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Let's see if we got any other cons here. Okay, yeah, con a roof, roof penetration. So that again, if you're not kind of familiar with what that process is and kind of, the techniques that installers use to mitigate leaks and things like that, it can be a little intimidating, and people may see roof penetration as the cons. But with the mounting equipment and warranties, homeowners are protected on that.
Yeah, I mean the mounting equipment's come a long way.
Yep.
Just even in the last 3 years, it's very very easy in most cases. And to tack onto that, the installer's workmanship warranty, they're warranting basically the whole area of the roof that you have solar on.
Right.
And so,
and particularly the actual penetrations and the radius around them.
Right. And
Yeah.
primarily the way you're going to find out about that is if you have a leak.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course, if your roof caved in, but that's never something we've
That's
had to.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Unless they're doing something really shoddy. But no, that doesn't happen. The mounting is just really simple because you either peel off the tiles, lay it down, or slip it right underneath.
And the sealants nowadays as well. It's roof leaks are not nearly as common as they once were, especially if you have an installer that's reputable, they have good workmanship. Not going to really run into
Yeah, so maybe you could talk about what you look for in an installer when it comes to this. Because if this is a con, how do we mitigate that
Yeah.
by choosing the right installer?
Yeah, for sure. So the installer workmanship warranty. So one thing that you want to look at, some installers may offer a 25-year workmanship warranty, but read the fine print, there may only be 1 or 2 years of coverage for the actual roof penetrations for leaks.
Oh, wow.
So keep a close eye on that. You obviously would prefer to have a 25-year bumper-to-bumper warranty. That's not only including the workmanship on the entire system, but covering those roof leaks for 25 years.
Yeah.
The installer is obviously not going to, cover your entire roof, and all of the warranties with that for 25 years, but things related to their work, if there's a leak near where they penetrated your roof for one of the footings for the solar equipment, they're going to cover that. So look for them to cover that for 25 years, not necessarily 1 or 2.
Right. And even if they are only covering it for 10, we see some 10s in
Yeah.
cases, you're going to find the leak.
Yeah, that's true.
If the
Unless you live in the Sahara, you're going to get some rain, and you're going to know if there's a leak there, basically.
True.
Yep. Okay. Pro. Energy independence. Okay, so I guess I got a little ahead of myself here on that. But yeah, home battery backup. There's a lot of new technologies out there now. Price points coming down. There's some statewide incentives. Maybe we talk a little bit about that. That's making it more viable for people to go home, get battery storage nowadays.
Yeah. So, I mean, the cost of the batteries hasn't really changed all that much from what we've seen
Yep.
from when they really started becoming popular. And primarily in California, just because of that statewide incentive
Yep.
that you met, which, so the way the incentives work, if you go solar in the same calendar year, obviously talk to your tax professional.
Yep.
But if you go solar in the same calendar year as you go with a battery, you can claim the federal tax credit on that portion. So that's 30% off your battery.
Yep.
In California, there's also what's called the SCHIP incentive, which really incentivizes homeowners to use their own power
Yep.
instead of pulling from the grid. And so it's energy independence from the homeowner. It's a more reliable grid because there's going to be less stress on it at the macro level.
Yep.
And so the battery has kind of two sides of it. And with load shifting, what that means is essentially in California and soon in other states, I'm sure,
yeah,
you're going to
for
have what you call time of use rate plans, where when the stress on the grid is the highest, they're going to charge the most. And so what load shifting is producing energy in the morning when the rates are lower.
Off peak or low.
Off peak,
Yeah.
yes. Saving that energy in your battery, not sending it out to the grid for that lower rate storage, and then at night, that 5 to 8, 4 to 9, whatever that time period is, when the rates are at their highest, instead of pulling from the grid,
Yep.
which puts stress on the grid and will cost you more, you pull it from your battery.
So now you're using that cheaper energy that you stored in the off-peak times, and you're using it in the
Yeah,
on-peak
so
times.
in Southern California, Edison, you would essentially in the morning give that kilowatt hour to the grid at 13 cents, and then if you had to pull it from the grid at night, it would be 34 cents.
Wow.
So
substantial
almost
difference.
a 3 times savings on your 1 kilowatt hour.
Yep.
And so then the payback period on the battery becomes a little bit better in those scenarios.
Right.
And so that's where load shifting can really come
Yeah,
into play.
I mean,
and it works for the whole as well.
Right. I mean, what kind of started off as more of kind of a luxury item, if you will, with the battery
Yeah.
storage, with load shifting, if you're on that time of use rate schedule with your utility, the economics, like you said, it's starting to actually, you're seeing a return on your investment.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that with the cost of batteries is going to continue to come down. California did approve yet to roll out, but approved more funding for the SCHIP program. We've heard rumblings in other states of battery incentives and
Come
more
on, New
battery
York.
deployment.
Come on.
Yeah, New York would be great. And the East Coast too, with the blackouts,
Yeah.
storms. I think that it has a little bit more of a dual purpose.
Right.
Even though California's had their issues with that as well,
Yeah.
a little less common than a thunderstorm knocking out
Right.
a power line, which happens with the East Coast
Yeah.
regularly, I'd say.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, let's see if we got anything else. Ooh, this is a good one.
Yikes.
I probably wouldn't want that guy coming into my living room. But yeah, so cons, high pressure sales tactics.
Poor posture. And if you're working in sales, stand up straight, chest out, present yourself well.
So yes, there are definitely some high pressure sales tactics, and kind of touching on what we talked about earlier. This is an unfamiliar process for a lot of homeowners. Salespeople know that. They can take advantage of that. They can pressure you into signing an agreement that may or may not be in your best interest. So door-to-door salespeople, I'm not saying they're all bad apples, but
No.
they're there for one job, and that's to sell you a solar system very quickly. So they may not be taking everything into account that's in your best interest.
Yeah, and just to be clear on that as well, most times you will save money with that kind of
That's
an
true.
approach. What those people do is they come to the house and they say, would you like to spend $100 or would you like to spend $90?
Right.
Here's $90, sign.
Yep.
Turns out you could have saved, in that case, you might save $20,000 over 25 years.
Right.
Not a bad investment.
Yep.
If you went with a loan, got a little bit more education, you might be saving $125,000.
Good point.
So it's not necessarily that they're selling you a product that's going to lose you money because you wouldn't buy that.
Right.
It's just that there's likely better options should you have a little bit more of an
Yep.
education. That goes back to that unfamiliar process. So the unfamiliar process coupled with the high pressure sales
Yep.
can lead to some bad experiences, and we're really trying to debunk those
For sure.
myths about the industry. Really.
And one other thing that we see a fair amount, overestimating the solar production. So you may, if the solar company that's giving you this estimate for what that system's actually going to produce, they don't have a production guarantee, which many do not. I would
No.
say the large majority do not have a production guarantee. They may just be saying, hey, this system's going to produce 10,000 kilowatt hours throughout the year, when in reality it's only going to produce 6. You're not going to be a very happy customer after that
Yeah.
first year.
And one thing that's also kind of nice on that production guarantee, pretty much every panel comes with what's called a performance guarantee.
Yep.
Very easy to not explain that and
Right.
let somebody think that they're guaranteed that production. Performance means that the panel
Yeah.
will perform, the electrical components of the panel will perform
Right.
at its warranty.
Yep.
Nothing to do with production.
Right. So basically what Patrick is saying here, that panel, if it's a 300 watt panel, it's going to produce X amount, over the course of 25 years of what it's warranted for, but your overall system may not produce what the salesperson told you it was going to produce. And at the end of the day, that's where it's going to affect your bottom line.
Right.
Yep. All right. What else we got? Anything else? That's it. All right. So Pick My Solar, as always. So we online marketplace, competing solar solutions from top providers. Come to us. We will analyze your specific project, figure out exactly what you need, and then we'll find you the most competitive offers in your area. Simple as that.
Yeah. We'll pull the cons out of the process. That's the next tagline.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. We will see you next